A man who almost got hit by a train, a tourist who almost jumped out of the air, a skydiver attacked by a wild eagle in mid-air. Make yourself comfortable. Here are 13 lucky people who were caught by the cameras. And the number 13 has nothing to do with it. It is said that there are no easy jobs, not even that of photographer. Here is the proof. This photographer was quietly standing, camera in hand, very impatient to see the train in front of him and immortalize its passage. While all his attention was directed towards the train that was gradually approaching the platform, the man was leaning over the rails so as not to miss anything of the great arrival of the machine. The only problem was that he overlooked the fact that behind him a lot could happen. Indeed, only a few seconds after taking his famous picture, another train coming behind him arrived at full speed, and almost hit him. The photographer, realizing that he was on the verge of seeing his life drastically shortened, was shocked by what had just happened. Well, he had the scare of his life, but at least he got his picture. It is said that the train of luck passes only once in a lifetime. For this photographer, maybe it was this one, except that he will certainly never ride a train again. The Russians should stick to making us good pavlova because weapons are really not their thing. And this man proved it to us. While he was being filmed by a cameraman, holding a Kalashnikov in his hand, the man wanted to shoot a vehicle in front of him. With all the zeal in the world, he aimed at the car and fired a shot. Except that he had obviously not calculated a major risk, that of receiving a projectile in the face. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. Luckily, the projectile came very close to the shooter's head and ended up behind the cameraman, who also just missed him. We don't know why the man shot at the vehicle, but he looked very proud of himself. Proud of having smashed the car to pieces or proud of having almost died? He certainly won't tell us. Will he do it again? I guarantee you he won't. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all notifications and not miss out on any of our upcoming content. During the 2014 Olympic Winter Games in Sochi, Russia, 4 skiers were in the midst of a race for victory on a track with impetuous turns. At one point, as the 4 skiers approached a dizzying slope as they flew over it, 3 of them missed their landing and crashed to the ground, while the 4th made his own. Not only was the player able to dodge his rivals and avoid a painful accident, but he was even able to win the race and come in first. In your opinion, should this be attributed to luck or professionalism? You be the judge. Have you ever come within inches of death? Yes, I said inches. On a snow-covered highway in Anchorage, Alaska, a convenience store was called to help clear the path of a car stuck in the snow. While the man was on his hands and knees trying to fix the problem, a drifting car coming from the opposite direction sped up and barely missed hitting him. Fortunately, the driver who had lost control of his vehicle was still able to deflect the steering wheel to the maximum, which saved the convenience store from certain death. It seems that this happened on Christmas Day, so it was probably Santa Claus who gave him a second chance. Sometimes luck smiles at us, other times it does much more than that, it saves us from death. This Chinese man, who was enjoying an attraction in a city park, had to cross a suspension bridge at a height of 150 meters above the ground by jumping from plank to plank. Of course, you can imagine that the man was restrained by a safety harness because between each board there was a terrifying void. Except that day, the safety harness that was supposed to be securely attached to the tourist's vest broke and the man didn't realize it until he had finished his crossing. In other words, he defied the void without knowing it. The man could very well have lost his balance or stumbled, but fortunately, none of that happened, otherwise he wouldn't be standing there smiling that smile of satisfaction. One thing is sure, the next time he'll just go for a carousel ride. Sometimes the sky falls on our heads, and that's exactly what happened to this young Turk. In Turkey, while a terrible storm was ravaging Istanbul, one man narrowly escaped a terrible disaster. While he was trying to cope with the high winds like many others, the young man began to look for a safe place to hide until the storm subsided. Filmed by a surveillance camera, the passerby hesitated for a long time before entering a store in the Sultangazi district. A few fractions of a second after he entered, the roof of the building suddenly collapsed on the sidewalk where he was standing. If this Turkish man had a chance of devil that day, others were unfortunately injured as a result of this tragedy. It is said that since that terrible night, this Turkish man loves to go shopping with his wife. Life can sometimes bring us to unlikely encounters in unlikely places. In the sumptuous mountains of the Indian Himalayan region, a skydiver was quietly descending aboard his paraglider. Then suddenly a wild eagle appeared out of nowhere, collided with the paraglider, and got stuck in the canopy. In a panic, the man did everything he could to try to unlock the animal before it crashed to the ground since the canvas had become entangled. Seeing that it did not want to deploy, the parachutist then used his reserve parachute, and this is how he was able to avoid death since the landing took place only a few seconds after deploying the reserve parachute. The pilot, fortunately, escaped unhurt from this improbable accident. It is said that the parachutist has since then switched to pétanque. Sometimes we are very lucky, but not at the right time. In this sequence, a journalist was filming the coach of Olathe, Kansas High School in the United States, trying to score a basket from midfield with his back turned to his goal. The coach seemed determined and motivated to do it without really believing it. Why do we say that? It's because, from the very first attempt, the man makes the incredible shot and seems shocked to have done such a feat. In fact, it took him a long time to realize what he had done. By the way, did you know that a basket made from the center of the field was a challenge that fans take up for incredible sums of money? So lucky or unlucky? A priori, when you ski, apart from the fact that you can twist your ankle or have a bad fall, accidents are rare. But it happens sometimes that luck, or bad luck, lurks around us. On the famous ski slope of Madonna di Campiglio in Italy, Austrian skier Marcel Hirscher, slalom specialist, 7-time world champion, and 8-time winner of the Alpine Ski World Cup, was making his descent. Suddenly, in the middle of his performance, a huge drone suddenly crashed a few centimeters away from him, grazing him very close. The flying drone equipped with a camera ended up crumbling on the icy slope right behind the skier. Despite what had happened, Hirscher has not destabilized at all and continued his race as if nothing had happened. A true professional. The champion even finished second behind the Norwegian winner Henrik Kristoffersen. But if next time you see him skiing with a riding bomb on his head, don't be surprised. In this sequence, you will see that even if we have mastered our discipline, if we are not lucky, some misfortunes can happen to us, sometimes fatal. This young man was kindly doing some acrobatic tricks with his bike cross, under the admiring eyes of the people present in the skatepark. Seeming to perfectly master his gestures, the young man swings, slides, and skims the edges before starting a huge slope that will take him directly to the steel barrier. The cyclist performs a pirouette in the air, before landing on the barrier made entirely of sharp peaks. Luckily, the young man finds himself with his legs spread apart, each one caught between two peaks while the bike drops to the ground. Extremely shocked, the young sportsman comes back down and struggles to realize what had just happened. He was 2 spikes away from having his abdomen pierced. It's a real miracle. Being a skateboarder is a whole art. You have to know how to handle the skateboard perfectly, to do elaborate tricks, improbable postures, and above all how to escape death when it comes for you. Exactly like what this young skateboarder did. Wanting to show his gang of friends one of his prowess, the young man gets on his skateboard and approaches the ramp that was on the sidewalk. But as he gained momentum, the young boy had to finish his run in the middle of the pavement, just as a car came speeding up and almost ran him over. By instinctively taking a small step backward, the young man miraculously managed to get out of the way. However, he had to say goodbye to his broken board. Next time, he will surely go to the park to do his somersaults like everyone else. Getting a slap in the face in life can happen to anyone. But this woman almost got much more than that. The young woman you see in this video, filmed by a surveillance camera, was leaving the store, a plastic bag in her hand, in the direction of the car that was parked just across the street. She intended to give the plastic bag to the driver who was occupying the vehicle. But just as she was handing out the merchandise to retrieve the change, a huge tractor tire wandered at an incredible speed in her direction and brushed her hand sharply. Terrified, the young woman then withdrew her hand on the spot, but seeing that the tire was about to violently hit an obstacle, the woman immediately rushed inside the store. She was right, as the tire had just hit the outside corner of the store and failed to demolish everything in its path. The poor woman could very well have been swept away by the tire, given the speed at which it was going, but fortunately, she was spared. It was the wheel of fortune for sure. There are times when life brings us down to earth or floods us with problems, so we wait for that little lifeline called luck. In Turkey, a man at the wheel of his huge excavator was dredging the Melon River in the northwestern province of Düzce. The purpose of the dredging operation was to make an 8-kilometer stretch of the Melon more attractive to tourists visiting the region. Suddenly, Yilmaz Arajan began to lose control of his gear when it slid into a deep part of the river. The excavator then began to rock gradually, losing its balance as it went, forcing its driver to climb out of the cab and stand on the side of the vehicle to stay out of the water. Because of the weight, the huge machine eventually flipped over completely, again forcing Yilmaz Arajan to desperately rush to the roof of the overturned excavator. Meanwhile, bystanders were filming the unbelievable scene, where the poor panicked man was screaming for help. Luckily, he was finally saved by the rescuers who brought him back to land. As for the excavator, it was removed from the water sometime later. What would you have done in his place? Would you have tried to swim back to shore? So, what do you think of these 13 lucky people? Have you ever experienced or witnessed such moments? Tell us in the comments, we look forward to hearing from you.